Could these leaked photos be the new Ford Bronco Sport? Let's look at these, let's see if they're legitimate, and let's analyze them. Hi, my name is Eric. Please subscribe if you're looking for more Bronco news, and I will aim to keep you up to date. There's 3 photos that surfaced on Bronco Sport Forum today, and the photos are still up. The administrators haven't pulled them down, and there's other outlets that are reporting on this too. There was a leak of the bigger Bronco, which appeared on Thursday. Those photos were quickly pulled down. I didn't want to post those because those seem to be pulled at the request of Ford, but these photos are still up. Road and Track, Autoblog, Motor One Jalopnik, everybody is reporting on this as legitimate. So let's see if these are legitimate. So these photos were leaked from a dealer meeting back in November. Let's look at the front. Let's look at the nose first. Now the difference between the dealer meeting and this photo here, which appears to be the most apparent, of course, is the Bronco logo instead of the Ford logo in the middle of the grille. But the overall shape of the grille seems pretty similar. And looking at the headlights here too, I know we've seen these before, but we've got this outer ring, this halo, which appears to be an LED element. And then we have another inner element which extends horizontally, and that also appears to be an LED, and that goes into the grille. So those look pretty consistent and pretty similar. Looking at the bumper profile above the black part, we have a wider section below the headlights, and it goes to a thinner section in the middle, and there appears to be an intake underneath that thinner section. So this definitely looks pretty similar. Now, one thing here that is very interesting about this photo is that the wheels, rather the tires, excuse me, have no tread on them. Now, it's a little bit odd. Perhaps this is some type of photo mock-up that they're going to use for photo shoots. Perhaps this is not a final finished version, but if it is a photo shoot version, then I think we can count on this looking exactly or very similar to the final product that we're going to see. Lower in the bumper, you've got some tow hooks on the right and the left side. There's also a little marker light, perhaps a fog light, possibly LED, possibly not. Those appear to be consistent too. Looking at the side profile, let's look at the angles of the pillar. So the A-pillar against the windshield has got a very similar angle to what we're seeing in the dealer meeting photo. It's got a little, right ahead of the door, it's got a little cutout there, a little black element, which seems to be pretty consistent too. There's a lower accent line, which looks consistent with the dealer photos. The door handles look pretty similar. The B-pillar appears to be at the same angle, and then we've got the C-pillar, this roughly 40-degree angle going back to the rear window. That also looks the same, and it's also got a roof rack that looks pretty similar too. So from the side, looking pretty similar here. Now you'll notice the wheels here are also incredibly shiny, and then the wheel style, a little bit hard to tell from the dealer photos, looks like it could be the same. So the side profile looks pretty similar, and also the cut line of the hood too. As you can see, it extends into the fender a little bit, looks pretty similar. Now going around to the back of the vehicle, that's something that we didn't see at the dealer meeting. You can see it's got a pretty big taillight element up in the roof. The taillights look pretty similar to what we've also seen from the spy photos. The camo stuff looks a little bit different than the bigger Bronco. And we have this consistent black bumper which appears to extend, it's both in the front and the back of the vehicle too, and we got a pretty decent cutout. One thing that's a little bit interesting is that the Bronco logo, Bronco Sport, it says, that's a pretty big logo. I don't know that's going to make it onto a production car. Certainly it might. It's a pretty big element, and we've got the Ford logo down there in the bottom left too. So, you know, this could be a tricky render that somebody's put together, but looks fairly legitimate to me. A couple months ago, there was also a leak from the front headlight element, and that looks pretty consistent with what we are seeing on the front of the vehicle too. It's this sort of oval type shape, and there is space for an LED element going into the front too. So overall, the styling, it definitely has a little bit of a retro feel to it, and I think this is competing fairly directly with the Jeep Renegade. I don't know that this is much bigger than the Renegade. I think it might be a little bit bigger. That's kind of the feeling I'm getting. Now it's got a very short front overhang and a very short rear overhang too, which is really good for off-roading. You've got a good angle of approach and departure. Looking at the belt line of the vehicle, behind the rear door, there is a little kick up right behind the rear door, and that's also kind of consistent with the dealer spy photos that we saw back in November. Now this Car Scoops render from a couple months ago, this seems to be the best render that I've seen of the Bronco Sport. All the elements seem to be pretty consistent with what we're seeing here, I guess, in real life. We've got the little kick up behind the rear door. The front looks very similar. The lights look very similar. The hood extending into the fenders looks pretty similar. The roof racks look the same. This seems to be a pretty good render, I think, given all the leaks that we've seen and the fact that this is still up on Bronco Sport Forum, hasn't been pulled down at the request of Ford. I think this is probably fairly legitimate. So I think this is a pretty good first look at what the Bronco Sport is going to be like. Now, the reveal is supposedly going to be this month. Haven't heard anything yet official from Ford, still waiting on that information. There's potentially going to be 2 reveals, one for the Bronco Sport and one for the bigger Bronco. They are slated for spring. Now, spring can go all the way up to June 21st, so that still could be in line with the Detroit Auto Show, but I think we're going to see it a little bit sooner. I think we are going to see it probably by the New York Auto Show at the latest, if the New York Auto Show actually goes on. One more thing that I think makes it probably legitimate, although you can do a lot with the renders nowadays, is there's some pretty good reflections in the side of the vehicle. You can see the rest of the room. It looks like there might be a black curtain or something like that. So perhaps this is a room to do photography of the vehicle. Perhaps this is an early press photo. There's reflections that you can see from the ceiling, the lights on the ceiling. So my guess is this is probably legitimate. What we don't have right now is any details of the powertrain, although it's heavily speculated that it's going to get a 2.3 liter EcoBoost and also a 2.7 liter EcoBoost engine. I'm not sure exactly what the options in the Sport are going to be. Certainly a 4-cylinder is a pretty strong option. Again, this is going to compete with the Jeep Renegade. Looking at the Ford Escape compared to it really quickly, the Ford Escape is probably going to be a less expensive vehicle. It's more city-oriented. You can see it has similar dimensions, but the Bronco is much more aggressive. It's got that retro kind of look and feel that I think is really, really important to the Bronco identity. Wannabe Artist 2020, who's on Instagram, I'm going to link him down below. He's done a little colorization work and he's closed the hood on these vehicles. So this is the same blue. You can kind of get a sense of what it looks like with the hood closed. Definitely there's a little bit of Land Rover Discovery in it in terms of the styling. Now I know some people have said that it is based on the Land Rover Discovery or it's built in the same assembly line. That's absolutely nonsense. There's no connection between the Land Rover Discovery and this vehicle as far as I know. Maybe some people went over from the Discovery team to the Bronco team. I'm not too sure on that, so I don't put a lot of credence in those rumors, but it does have a little bit of that vibe to it. Not a bad thing if you ask me. Here it is in some type of green. I don't know that these are actually Ford colors that Wannabe Artist has put together, but thank you so much for these. Got a red one, which I think looks pretty good, and in fact I did a video a couple weeks ago with the color swaths. I'm going to link it over here. And then we've got this sort of lime yellow color. If you've got any tips, hit me up on Instagram. It's linked down below. These photos are from Bronco6g.com and they're still up. They haven't been deleted at the request of Ford, unlike the stuff last week. The user is Jimbo92 and it looks like we have 3 photographs. The first one, this white photograph, appears to be the Bronco 4-door. And what's curious about this is the Bronco logo in the middle of the grille seems to light up. Now, I'm not sure that that's entirely realistic. I guess we're going to find out. Again, this could be a render. We could be looking at something that has been faked for our benefit. Hard to say at this point. It does have these fender flares, which are sort of Jeep-like, I guess, although don't shoot me if you if you don't like that. It's got the roof that we've seen before. Looks like the removable roof. It's a different color. The wheels look very consistent with what we have seen before, too. Now, the next photograph appears to be the same. It has Torque Army on it. That is an Instagram account. I just checked out the Instagram account. There's no information there about where this came from, but it is a slightly wider view. One thing you can see here is the rear does seem to have a swing gate on it, and there's no tire on it right now, but it looks like a rear swing gate. I think that's probably what is realistic. I think we can expect something like that, especially if there is I guess I'm going to call it a toaster, which was from one of the patents that we saw a little bit earlier this year, where you can take the 4 doors, sort of stack them in this toaster and put them in the back of the vehicle. This does have the Raptor style wheels. These are pretty big tires on here. I'm guessing these are maybe 33, something like that. We have a short overhang, again, good for off-road. Now this one here I'm a little bit suspicious on, and all these photographs you should take with a little bit of a grain of salt. We are getting very close to the reveal. There could be leaks, there could be people doing clever renders. It's difficult to say exactly what's happening. They do appear to be from the inside of some type of production facility, but this one here, this sort of tan-colored vehicle, looks like the 2-door off-road body-on-frame Bronco. It's got Juggernaut on it. I looked for that username. I don't see him on Instagram. I'm not entirely sure where this came from. Now this one doesn't quite look realistic to me. This could be a clay mock-up in a studio. Maybe, but the windows are blacked out. You can't see inside the windows. Something about it, I'm not quite sure what it is. It just doesn't quite look right to me. It looks a little too slick, a little too perfect. So I'm a little suspicious of this one in particular. Now Road and Track has reported on this along with some other publications. They're still up. So I guess these photographs, if they are photographs, Pandora's box has now been opened. It looks like this is pretty close to what we're gonna get. If you have any tips, definitely hit me up on Instagram. It's linked down below. There's 2 videos up on screen right now. Pick one of them that's gonna have a lot more information on the Bronco. My name is Eric. Please subscribe if you like this content, and I'll see you in the next video.